Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest Riker. We've been recording video after video today, lots of news, lots of rumors. This is probably going to be the first one to come out because this is the newest, hottest news. But Riker, the Toronto Raptors are apparently, the Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report came out and said that the Toronto Raptors are engaged in trade discussion with the Portland Trail Blazers in a deal centered around CJ McCollum and Pascal Siakam. That's a framework. They're saying now that we have Scotty Barnes, we're more likely to make a trade or trade Siakam. And this has got to be fake news. This has got to be the cheesiest trade I've ever seen. If we end up moving Pascal Siakam, right, who's in a position of need for the Toronto Raptors, the forward spots. I know we got Scotty Barnes, but our front line is pretty thin right now. For a guy in the backcourt who we already have Trent, we already have Fred, we already have Malachi, we already have all these guys. If we're going to do that, and a significant step down in terms of caliber of specifically defense, right, mobility, the ability to play off people, Siakam was the second option on a championship team. I will lose my mind if this actually happens, unless we're getting like 30 first-round picks.
Bleacher Report has been the worst outlet for anything related to Raptors. They always propose these ridiculous trade ideas that don't benefit the Raptors organization any which way possible. So I can only speculate that this is another jab at the Raptors franchise. I don't know if they do it on purpose or not, but
those trades are usually just ideas, right? Ideas float around. This is a report saying that the Raptors and the Blazers are in discussions of a trade surrounding CJ and Pascal, which I think is insane.
You wouldn't do it one for one. You wouldn't do it one for one because you get way worse for the reasons that you mentioned. But listen, even if you added Nurkic into the mix and you just straight up trade Pascal Siakam for CJ and Nurkic, which that's the only way that I would start to consider it. You're just assembling the Trailblazers roster over on the Toronto Raptors with Gary Trent Jr., CJ McCollum, and Nurkic without having Damian Lillard. And it makes no sense, right? If you look at the stats, Pascal Siakam, as bad as he played, still averaged the same amount of points as CJ McCollum, who had no issues with his scoring this most recent season. He's an undersized shooting guard at 6'3". And like you said, there's questions around his defensive ability. So this one makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. I would still be reluctant to trade Pascal Siakam for Damian Lillard because we broke that down in a hypothetical trade and said that still wouldn't really make sense for the Toronto Raptors. So to put this one in our face, it's insulting. I don't think it's as insulting as the Ben Simmons offer for OG and Fred, and I don't even know who was offered or who they demanded in that one. But this is near as bad. If the Trailblazers approached Toronto with this deal, that is nearly as insulting, Ben.
No, I don't know if I'd say nearly as insulting as that. The
CJ McCollum 1-for-1 with Pascal Siakam.
Simmons for like the fourth pick, Fred, Lowry, NOG. That's like a 2 at a club. That's Ben
Simmons is DPOY caliber, perennial all-star. He's a unicorn in the league at his size, his playmaking, and his rebounding and defense ability. CJ McCollum, he barely scratched all-star once in his career, and he's an undersized shooting guard that can't defend. So you're talking about Pascal Siakam, who won a championship, who's a two-way player, who was the number one guy in his organization right now, that has been an all-star for a couple of years. This is equally as insulting, Ben.
This is I don't know, some random dude that hasn't showered at a I don't know, for 3 months, going up to Selena Gomez or someone and asking to hang out, get the number, whatever. That's the Ben Simmons. I'd at least put it as maybe one of us going up to Selena Gomez and asking for the number, which is still a little bit
Nah, that's not a reach, dude. If I saw her, I'd shoot my shot.
Yeah, we're going to shoot our shot. But if I'm the Blazers, I'm going to at least shoot my shot with CJ McCollum for Pascal Siakam, you know? So
you're fine with this trade proposal from the Trailblazers perspective, because obviously this makes them better. This makes them a contender in the West. If they pulled in Pascal Siakam and all they do is offload CJ McCollum, they're immediately up there in the top, because Pascal is as a number 2 option, proven number 2 guy on a championship team alongside Damian Lillard, who always brings lesser than teams into good playoff positions. This is a real team.
Yep. No, for sure. That's why I'm saying I respect the shot for the Portland Trailblazers if they're asking for this, but there would have to be serious compensation returned for the Toronto Raptors. And what would that level of compensation have to be if it's a Siakam for CJ McCollum base trade setup? Because Nurkic I think would definitely have to be involved in my opinion, and then the Blazers, they've given up a couple of first round picks already. I'd like to see at least two, maybe an Anthony Simons
Anthony Simons.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then again, like, would he really fit with this Toronto Raptors team? Because if you're bringing in McCollum, right, him and Fred, what I'd assume would be your starters, right? Maybe you look at McCollum as off the bench with Trent, even though Trent was backing up CJ McCollum down there in Portland. You already have Malachi Flynn. Will Anthony Simons even get minutes on this squad?
Then maybe you look at one of their bigs, I guess, kind of Harry Giles type. But here's the thing. You want like 3 players and picks, and we already have Gary Trent Jr. from them. So we're literally we're reassembling the Trailblazers on the Raptors. I don't think that that's the way to go. Maybe I'm being unreasonable here because we still do have OG who would fit in well with guys that are offensive talent, and could be
Scotty
the anchor
Barnes
on the defensive end.
Yeah,
Scotty Barnes as well, and Fred VanVleet. He is kind of similar to Damian Lillard, just does less than everything that Damian Lillard does. So it doesn't make no sense whatsoever if we got back Nurkic, because then we're trading big for big, and we bring in CJ McCollum, who is a legit shooting guard. I mean, we're bashing on him just because offering him for Siakam makes no sense, but in a vacuum, CJ McCollum on his own has been able to achieve a lot in his NBA career, especially being number 2 option for a guy like Damian Lillard who needs the ball in his hands, right? So he could come in and have an impact on the Raptors. I don't like it. I don't like it. Doesn't fit right. It doesn't feel right. I put my, this trade sweater on and I don't like the way that it's rubbing on my skin. So I don't know. I feel anxious about even trying to come up with good aspects of this trade, Ben.
Yeah. Well, with CJ McCollum, because the Raptors, they're so encouraging. The reason you and I are so hyped about this team is because we're long. We're defensive oriented. We have a lot of guys. We can actually run Trent at the starting shooting guard position, which he obviously thrives a lot better in than we've seen him play off the bench last season. So my guess one outlet where I'd see this trade being cool, right? Just fit wise and all these sorts of things, assuming we get the proper young player draft compensation that you need when you're trading a Siakam for CJ McCollum. And just also to go on a little tangent right now, because I know there's a lot of people in our comment sections that have been trashing on Pascal Siakam, thinking, oh, we should give him up for donuts or anything like that. But Siakam is an all-NBA second team player, which CJ McCollum has never done. He's he's an all-star. He's a one-time all-star. CJ McCollum has never done. He's an NBA champion, a proven second option on an NBA championship team, which clearly CJ McCollum has never done. So there's levels to this. Even though Siakam had a poor season last year, you and I don't really want to trade Siakam considering his value is low, but if you're going to move him, you're going to have to at least request some level of what this guy was prior to the bubble season, right? You're going to have to factor that in. So that's the first thing. So people that are in the comment section, they probably already commented, oh, get rid of CJ McCollum. We're crazy. Or get rid of Pascal Siakam. We're crazy for not wanting this trade back. But that's the first thing. But if we're going to run a lineup of Fred, I say keep Trent as the starting shooting guard. OG, Scotty Barnes as the power forward, your point power forward, run him the same position Simmons and Draymond Green run. And then having Nurkic there at the center, that's a cool starting lineup. And then you want that firepower off the bench. If CJ McCollum's willing to be a 6-man, just ridiculous 20-point per game bench scorer, still gets his 30 minutes a night, but can come in and just get you buckets off the bench. And then, if we need that defensive lineup out there, we rock with those starters, right? Have him, because we do need a little bit more scoring. Have Birch off the bench, have Malachi there as well. Whoever else we pick up in free agency, maybe in a Lowry sign-and trade. That's not a horrific starting lineup, but I'd much rather have Siakam there at the 4 and then figure out the 5 later on.
Well, if we're trading Siakam, then I'd rather have the Warriors deal and trade away Pascal for Wiseman and Wiggins. And then you'd have Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., Wiggins at the 3, OG at the 4, and Wiseman at the 5. And then you have Kem Birch as your backup. And then you have Scotty Barnes as backup. And maybe you do a little bit of something to bring in some more scoring I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe from a scoring perspective, it is a little bit more incentivizing to go if it was CJ McCollum and Nurkic, because both of those guys know how to put the ball
Yep.
into the basket, where James Wiseman doesn't yet. He's more of a project. And Andrew Wiggins, he is what he is. Some are high, some are low. He has improved his trade stock because he had a good year.
Well, the thing about the Warriors deal too is we know what those picks were that they would have offered at this point now. So would it be Kuminga and Moses Moody coming back, who are two interesting young prospects? Obviously, Kuminga's a bit of a project, but Moody is a guy that's trying to win Rookie of the Year this season.
Hey, I would have done it now, like kind of looking back on it, especially now that we did draft Scotty Barnes with that 4. I almost, but I'm only saying I would have done it if it's a done deal that Pascal Siakam is going to get traded, because that's what you have to base this off of. Because I'm saying right now, hard no to this deal, even if Nurkic is included, because I would just keep Pascal Siakam, give him another chance to prove himself, which we've said time and time again, that makes the most sense with Pascal Siakam. But if Raptors are ready to move on, and these are the only two, well, this one is hardly a legitimate deal because we only hear that they're in discussions. We only hear CJ McCollum's name, Pascal Siakam's name, whereas it was more flushed out with the Warriors. We heard that Wiggins, Wiseman, etc. But
as well.
Yeah, multiple sources. But assuming that both of these are legit, that these are the trade talks, I don't know what you would take. I'm torn. I'm conflicted. I don't love this. I don't love it. Again, I put on this trade sweater if it was an article of clothing. I just don't like how it fits.
Yeah, it's a tough situation as Raptors fans, but as we saw back at the trade deadline, we thought if we were trading Norman Powell to the Blazers, we'd need Gary Trent Jr. and a Nurkic and some picks or something like that. We were disappointed initially, but Trent ended up being a solid return. But I don't know, maybe it'll surprise us if it ends up going down. It's probably in the preliminary stages anyways, if it's just Jake Fisher reporting it. But it's not, this is a Bleacher Report trade. That's not one of those just random trade proposals that we sort of memeingly react to every now and then. This is they're saying there's discussions going on. Riker, I'm a little bit cheesed. This is our 6th video recorded for the day over Raptors Digest and Courtside, but it's probably the first one that's going up. So lots and lots of content coming to you guys from the Digest crew. So subscribe to Raptors Digest. It really helps us out, right? Check out the Instagram, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. Tell your friends about the channel, right? If your friends are itching for a great source of Toronto Raptors banter, just shoot them a text, right? Tell them to join the Digest bandwagon. Riker, you have any last words on this horrific trade for the Toronto Raptors?
No, horrific trade. We'll leave it at that, Ben. Cheers.